Okay, this is my third video today. I'm on a roll. Okay, hello everybody. It is I, Naven from Naven Gaming. How are y'all doing today? I have another video lined up. I was kind of looking for something else since I had a little bit of extra time before I was officially done for the day, so I thought I'd react to it in another video. I was looking for something particularly short, and then I saw this video by Major Kill, the great gamer word extraordinaire himself. So yeah, I thought I would just react to this, and and he's been reacted to before, so I try to err on the side of caution with most of these things, but he has been reacted to before. I don't know if he's what his opinions on react content is, other than people might be okay with it. Maybe like I don't know. I haven't seen any sort of input from him about anything. I haven't heard anyone talk about it either, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just kind of assume that it be fine, as long as I'm doing my due diligence right of just recommending people to the channel and making sure that they like, subscribe, you know, make sure they go support the original video among other things, right? I'm sure it'll be fine. I mean, plus, if he does have a problem with it, he could always just say in the comments, or just mention, or just maybe like I don't know. How do you communicate through YouTube? Can you send personal messages on YouTube? I guess it doesn't matter. Point being, yeah, if he has a problem with it, you could always just tell me to take it down, and I'll be happy to oblige. I do not mind taking down videos if that is what the content creator wants. Like if they're not cool with people reacting to their content, I will happily take it down. But yeah, this is kind of one part of the lore that I was kind of interested in with Saint Celestine, because I'm aware of Saint Celestine, but I'm not too sure about the specifics. And this is a 12-minute video, and knowing me, I'm probably going to have a lot to say about it regardless. So I thought, might as well react to a Major Kill video. As far as what I know about Major Kill, he's someone who makes a lot of punchy Warhammer content. Like he's very much just like, like he tells you the good rough summarization of a thing, and he gives you all of the important details, and doesn't give you a whole lot of the specifics. But that's kind of the point. He's very digestible, I would say. And so, yeah, I guess that's pretty much all I need to say at this point. Go ahead and like and subscribe, please. Support the original creators. The video will be linked in the description below. Please feel free to go support the original content creators. But yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into it.
G'day guys and gal. Some people think there should be more representation in Warhammer 40k, more badass girl bosses slaying the day away, but some people clearly don't know about Saint Celestine, the biggest bad bitch in the galaxy, flying around smacking demons like it's nobody's business. She is quite literally an imperial demon and the evidence of the Emperor's power, since Chaos definitely isn't the one that's juicing her up. While she might seem a bit too perfect and angelic on the outside, not exactly grimdark, her lore is actually pretty messed up, especially the shit she has to go through every time she dies and needs to respawn. It's not a good time. However, all of it does add to how awesome of a character she actually is. Before we get started, my only goal in life is to be as hot as possible for as long as possible. Everything else revolves around that. To this end, I don't engage in bad habits like sucking down some poison, and with the help of today's sponsor Fume, you don't have to either. Fume is a flavored air device that you suck on for a delicious explosion of yummy air without any of the negatives. No vapor, no nicotine, no smoke, just air. A fantastic way to break a bad habit. The device isn't just for sucking though, it was engineered to be the perfect fidget stick to help you get through your day. There are so many flavors to choose from, my favorite being crisp mint, orange vanilla, and sparkling grapefruit. Crisp mint slaps, it's like inhaling a minty freshy chewy. Fume offers both the lighter prominent model as well as the dark Solano model, which is the one I use, that features an onyx tip and a walnut barrel. They also have a number of secondary products, like the magnet base, which lets you spin your fume around like the special little boy you are, as well as a fume topper, to keep everything covered and clean. So to get a great fiddle device, break a bad habit, or just want something yum to suck on, then head to tryfume.com and use code MAJORKILL or scan the QR code on screen, which will get you a free Fume topper when you order the Fume Journey Pack. Cheers to Fume for sponsoring this video. Today we'll go over the lore of Saint.
So it's basically a vape, but without actually being a vape. It's just flavored air. Interesting. I guess I've seen weirder products being advertised. I think the I would say probably the weirdest one I've seen so far is when Bricky was advertising the soap bar in the fucking Factions Explained, the Re-Factions Explained video. That one was just kind of random. I wasn't expecting that at all, but you know, it's I mean, I don't know. I've never used it. What was it called? Cheeky? I mean, if he lives by the soap, then by all means, you know, like it must be a really damn good bar of soap.
Celestine, detailing how she became a living saint, what power she has, what she's done in the lore, and what she's up to now. Let's get into it. Although the Emperor isn't in a very chatty mood at the moment, being an undying Skeletor battery has that effect, he's still immensely powerful. His shattered consciousness still seeks to protect and help mankind. Often without realizing it, he will save entire worlds, or in some cases, create living saints. Brave, pure, and heroic mortals who died faithfully and now return with a burning vengeance. Greatly empowered. There are multiple living saints. Many were previously Sisters of Battle, but some have also been guardsmen. Some people are so awesome in life that when they die, they are declared living saints despite not being one. For example, Lord Macarius, Space Alexander the Great. However, no one is quite a living saint like Saint Celestine. This bitch flies, has a flaming sword, has doves and shit that appear, has two chicks that fly around with her. When you think of living saint, you think of Saint Celestine. But how did she come about this awesome power? Well, the thing that distinguishes the Emperor's demons, like the Legions of the Damned, the Living Saints, and even the Sanguinor, as opposed to Chaos Demons, is that they were once living mortals who ascended to become Imperial Demons. So they are like demon princes, whereas most Chaos Demons are shards of their patron Chaos God. So Saint Celestine was once a
This is probably what led to people suspecting that the Emperor of Mankind was actually like a warp god, like a chaos god from the warp. Because there are lesser chaos demons in the warp that could serve as chaos gods there, but they just don't. They're not nearly as powerful or as popular or even as well known as like the four major ones. And so I think that theory still checks out. I think the theory still stands. And the fact that the Primarchs were probably made through a similar process of infusing, potentially, right, warp demons into bodies, into living, vessels in order to essentially create more powerful, genetically modified humans is, I mean, it's certainly an interesting theory and idea. I mean, like, I certainly like some of the theory crafting that the community comes up with. I like the idea that he is a chaos god, but I also like the idea, right, that he's also just a chaos god, potentially, or the physical manifestation of mankind's, like, hope and stubbornness, all culminated into one facet of, like, just existence, just one celestial entity. But, you know, like, that's just me. You know, like I like all kinds of discussions around the subject about some of the lore bits as well as some of the other finer details, and also a lot of the stories. I think there's a lot of interesting things to dissect and to really get into with this setting, which is why I like to cover it. It's also why I enjoy engaging in it so heavily in my free time. You know, like I would love nothing more than to have like maybe my own army one day, or at least have the books, but that again costs money, and it's something I do not have. So, yeah.
mortal woman. Her pre-saint life is shrouded and doesn't give us much information, with some sources saying she was actually a citizen of Terra during the Horus Heresy, and her first death was during the orbital bombardment of Terra. From this, we can assume she was a follower of the Lectitio Divinitatis. The next time we see her, confusingly, she is a Sister Repenter of the Order of Our Martyred Lady, probably the most popular Sister of Battle order. However, the Sister Repenters are those crazy
I I mean, I think the Sister Repentia are only as infamous for one particular reason. If we're gonna be honest. I've heard the Custodies have a similar issue, but, you know, I think Emperor's TTS kind of alludes to how funny that is in retrospect, given the JoJo literal ripoffs and the stand music playing, the literal JoJo music playing in the background when they show up on the screen. It's funny, but yeah.
naked chicks that wield gigantic chainswords in battle, basically Sister of Battle berserkers. Generally, when sisters sin, they discard their armor and become a repentia, seeking absolution via death in battle. It's unclear what sin Celestine committed, but if she had already died and been reborn by this point, perhaps she joined the sister repenter in a similar way to how Space Marine Black Shields joined the Death Watch. Don't ask questions, just let me die for the Emperor sort of vibe. The lore regarding her being an Imperial citizen is pretty new, was a brief reference, and I haven't actually read the source material in the new Saint Celestine book for it yet, so if I'm just talking shit, then I'll repent by getting my balls stomped 11 times. So hopefully I'm wrong. During an especially hectic battle against a bunch of heretics, Celestine massacred over 100 of them before she was taken out. Her body was recovered, however the other sisters were shocked to see that she was still alive and radiated holy power. When they cleaned her, there was no wounds on her body and she rose again, ready for round 2. Celestine didn't hear no bell. She led the sisters in battle the next day, and after her Zenkai boost, absolutely stomped. Her commander wanted to push onward to attack the capital world of the heretics, but Celestine wanted to do a side.
Is that a Dragon Ball reference? I have not watched Dragon Ball, unfortunately. That was not my show when I was a kid. I never liked Dragon Ball as a kid. I just thought it took too long to get to the action, so I just didn't care for it. I immediately, I kind of doubled on that opinion when Naruto started showing up, but that's only because Naruto actually had a bit more intrigue to the proceedings of the battles than Dragon Ball did, where it's just powering up and finding avenues to power up, among other things, right? I don't know. I could be terribly wrong on that, granted, but like to me, Dragon Ball just looked like a bunch of guys screaming into the void just to gain higher levels, and it's not what I was about when I was a kid.
Side quest first. She went to a little known world that many years prior, St. Catherine had visited. St. Catherine was the second in command to Alicia, the original leader and founder of the Sisters of Battle, with St. Catherine also being the founder of the Order of Our Martyred Lady, the order that Celestine was part of, so she was pretty important. On the world, Celestine discovered Catherine's golden power armor as well as her ardent blade, a master-crafted power sword that can ignite into flames. Needless to say, Celestine had repented and was now declared a living saint, radiating the power of the Emperor. She progressed to the main quest, took out the heretic capital, and then led her army of followers to victory time and time again during the Wars of Faith, which was a general term for any war that heavily involved the ecclesiarchy and was usually centered around conquest. During one such war, Celestine was killed when the traitors detonated an atomic warhead failsafe in a pretty dog act, obliterating the living saint. Everyone was pretty bummed out by this, with the bells of the Imperial Palace itself tolling in mourning. But she survived! Celestine randomly returned at an extremely clutch moment, saving a force of sisters and salamanders who were fighting the Black Legion. She personally slew the demon prince in command and led the loyalists to victory. However, she quickly dipped after that. It seems she went back into the warp. As an Imperial demon, she could do so easily and without risk of getting attacked by warp predators. She was of the warp. It was her home. In the warp, she managed to find a few thousand Sisters of Battle who had been lost. Often Imperial ships would be blown off course and their navigators killed. The ship would still be alive, but with no navigator, they'd be stuck in the warp and declared lost. People like Celestine could find them, however, and find them she did, as she brought them out of the warp to help defend Cadia during the 13th Black Crusade. Her arrival also resurrected two canonesses, Eleanor and Genevieve, who were brave Sisters of Battle that were chosen to be her Gemini superior, basically her support warriors. Saint Celestine helped turn the tide of the battle against the traitors, slaughtering demons of all sizes. She even fought Abaddon in personal combat alongside her Gemini superior, and the fight was actually pretty even. However,
Wow, that's pretty interesting detail. She fought Abaddon, the despoiler himself. I mean, the guy takes L's, granted, a lot of them in lore. But, granted, I imagine that, like, the biggest excuse as to why that is because, he very much is, like, the part of the greater evil faction of the setting. And, if he won more times than he lost, it would kind of be a really big fucking shit show as to how the Imperium manages to survive most encounters, but, granted, I feel like that it could also just be a case, another way to excuse it, potentially, right, could be that Abaddon loses so much because that's the only stories we're told is how many times he's lost and not so many, and not so much of his victories. Like, it has been stated that he has conquered and pillaged plenty of worlds prior to the Cadia incident, which is, that's interesting to take note, but, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to see it or experience it, right? And that's kind of the problem with Abaddon, is that a lot of his achievements are all discussed and never widely, like, are never really written or engaged in. Right? They're not physical media you can actually see for yourself. So maybe one of these days we might see something like that, but definitely the Blood Acadia was the biggest defining moments where, yeah, he's probably more of a threat than we probably would give him credit for. And that's probably due to the fact that they had to do that at contrivance, lore-wise, because, especially writing-wise, because, again, the guy was kind of a joke for a long while, and so no one really took the guy seriously. I think Games Workshop understood that, and so their next best decision was just like, well, what if we had him lay siege to Cadia, get all of these resources together to do that, and then have him succeed while still the Imperium manages to successfully retreat and manage to secure as many resources as humanly possible. Still deal a major blow, but not so major that it completely debilitates the Imperium, right? I think that's kind of the angle that they were working with, but, that's just my opinion.
For when the Necron pylons were activated, which weakened the warp on Cadia with the goal of shrinking the Eye of Terror and banishing
Hello.
all the demons, Saint Celestine was also weakened, allowing Abaddon to gain the upper hand. Despite this, they did actually beat Abaddon, although it took the help of Inquisitor Greyfax, a bunch of Cadians, and Lord Commander Creed as well. Celestine was able to shank Abaddon, wounding him pretty badly. Abaddon was salty as fuck about this, so he threw a Blackstone Fortress at Cadia, destroying it. Celestine led the survivors out via a secret webway gate that she was psychically guided to by the Elder, becoming the Imperial commander and overall leader. She led this force through a lot of bullshit, as the webway is always full of bullshit, getting help from the Elder along the way, before they arrived at Macragge, which was under siege by the Black Legion, as they knew the survivors of Cadia were heading here and were sus as fuck about what they were trying to do. By leading Yvraine and Call to Macragge, they were able to complete the resurrection of Primarch Guilliman, the most pivotal moment in 40k lore for around a decade, and the only thing that has given the Imperium an actual chance against Chaos. She even continued on to Terra alongside Guilliman, being a massive asset during the extremely difficult journey. Now the community has a bit of a meme between Saint Celestine and Inquisitor Greyfax. They get shipped as a lesbian couple, almost as much as Yvraine and Guilliman get shipped. This was because originally...
By the way, that ship, between Guilliman and Yvraine is so overdone. Like, from what I understand, right, according to what I have seen and what I have heard, they've only had maybe some terse exchanges among, like, just a, a, an exchange of gratitude, and then they just went their separate ways. They just kind of fucked off, right? It's amazing how just these few exchanges is what got turned into a whole shipping fest. It's funny how how much people ship these two characters over a few exchanges. It is unreal. But yeah. And as far as Saint Celestine and what was her name, Greyfax? Uh, yeah, they're about as evenly shipped between these two are evenly shipped between Guilliman and Yvraine, and it's like I kind of see why, but at the same time I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I have to. I don't know much about their relationship or their interactions. So maybe there's an actual. I think that's my phone going off. There might actually be a fundamental reason for that, but like, I don't know. I guess I just have to see it. Maybe I have to do more lore delving between Greyfax and Saint Celestine, so just to really get an idea as to why these two are shipped as hard as they are. So I do know they have very contrasting personalities, so maybe that's it. But yeah, let's go ahead and get back into it.
Greyfax didn't trust Celestine and saw her as a warp abomination, although the lore doesn't create any sexual tension between them. This original conflict gets resolved when
Yeah, no
Guilliman
fucking
revives
shit.
and Greyfax is like, holy fuck, and thus Greyfax trusts Celestine from then on, with one scene even having Celestine offering herself to Greyfax to use her as a warp tuning device. Once again, not sexual, but it does come across as a bit suggestive. Basically, it's the formula of Greyfax doesn't like Celestine, which creates sexual tension, which is then released in a hectic lesbian sex scene upon Guilliman's resurrection. That's basically the entire fanfic, and look, I'll allow it. With Guilliman back in charge and launching the Indomitus Crusade, Celestine follows her own path to help.
Yeah, of course he'd fucking allow it. Major Kill is not shy about that kind of shit.
mankind, getting caught up in a chaos plot where a Lord of Change was manipulating the ecclesiarchy in an attempt to possess Celestine and use her to manifest in reality. It was classic Zinchian bullshit. The plot failed when a custodian called Longinus killed Celestine as she was being possessed, causing her to instantly revive and hunt down the Lord of Change before beating the shit out of him and banishing him back to hell. Interestingly, Longinus is also the custodian who originally met with Alicia and Catherine in order to bring them to the Emperor and convince them that their master, Georges Van Dyer, was a fucking dick and not worthy of their loyalty, so he has a lot of connection with the Sisters of Battle. Even more interestingly, Longius is one of the names that the Horus Heresy era custodes called Ammon Takamarian had, Ammon being one of the most well-known custodes of that time, so there's a good chance that Ammon is the Longius in the current setting, making him over 10,000 years old. No real surprise there, custodes pretty much don't age out of their prime, although visually they can look like older men who would be in their 40s or 50s. When custodes retire to become Eyes of the Emperor, it's not because of age, it's more so due to the accumulation of permanent injuries. Celestine was then drawn to the planet of Tsareka.
Oh, I thought it was because of age. Damn, it's actually just because of a buildup of, like, injuries and conditions as a result of being in armed conflict for so long. That that does make sense. Especially if you're you're a genetically modified human that doesn't age, has none of the downsides of being a human, a normal person. You probably would have a problem with how the hell do you explain these people living for so long, or how do you explain, like, maybe custodes eventually going off and doing their own thing, maybe, perhaps. Like, how do you slowly weed them out like you do most other, like, established legions, among other things, right? Well, the simple solution that they found was just, like, they can serve as the Eyes of the Emperor, which is interesting. I think the idea that there could be, like, a custody just randomly on a fucking hive world, and just is an just have something that's that deadly just sleeping dormant, just kind of basically paying no heed, no mind to any of the goings-on of the greater Imperium is kind of fascinating. And it's, I mean, there's gotta be a story about that, right? Anyways, moving on.
What the fuck is that name? It had a special psyker on it that was like a mini Astronomicon.
Wait,
and
what?
Due to the accumulation of permanent injuries. Celestine was then drawn to the planet of Tsareka. What the fuck is that name? It had a
That's a good question.
Like a mini Astronomicon, and they wanted to save them for obvious reasons. However, Khan the Betrayer invaded the world, which caused a massive WWE anime tier smackdown between the Living Saint and the Avatar of Khorne. Out of desperation, Celestine allowed the Alpha Legion to take the Psyker and held off Khan for as long as she could, before he killed her. She would return to life not too long afterwards on a different planet, where she would lead the Imperial forces against the Khornite blood cult. Although she won, some of her allies were corrupted by Khorne and she was forced to purge her own forces. However, as the last of them were being culled, she was hit full force with a melter gun, killing her, with that being the last we see of Saint Celestine in the current lore. So the three things you're probably currently wondering is, how does she come back to life, what's up with those two bodyguard chicks she always seems to have, her Gemini superior, and what powers does she have? In terms of her resurrections, when Saint Celestine dies, she goes to the warp in her own version of hell. She wakes on a mountain of bones, broken armor, and whatnot, bearing the same recent injuries as what killed her. She also loses her memory. To come back to life, she has to journey through this hellish realm and recover her memory, sword, armor, as well as shards of her own soul, that being faith, duty, and hope. Once she has completed the trials and recovered all of herself, she is able to return to the setting. However, every time she does these trials, there is a genuine chance of failure, with failure meaning she would either be permanently destroyed or corrupted by chaos. So far, she has never failed. As for a Gemini superior, they are never the same two sisters of battle. Eleanor and Genevieve were both killed during the fall of Cadia. Whenever Celestine appears, she empowers two new canonesses to become her new Gemini superior by imbuing one of them with faith and the other with duty. Thus they become extensions of herself. It's a massive honor to be chosen, but it probably means you'll also die very, very soon. As for her powers, she is extremely fast, durable, and strong, happy to go toe-to-toe with some of the most powerful the setting has to offer. She can obviously self-resurrect and is extremely good at banishing corruption and demons. She can spawn holy fire, shoot psychic blasts, can shield herself or allies, also she can fly, no fucking shit. Asking what Saint Celestine can do is kind of like asking what Magnus can do, whatever the fuck the plot requires of them. I'd say in terms of where she ranks in the Imperium's power level, she would be one of their most powerful easily, only behind people like Gilliman, the Lion, the Sanguinor, and maybe Mephiston. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up some Major Gear 600k merch.
putting her on the same level of a Primarch is a bit of a that's a bit of a statement, but you know, granted, he's got more of the lore details in books than I ever will, so I'm just gonna take his word on that.
We've sold out of one of the singlets and only have about 10% or so of the rest remaining, so there isn't much left. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Sweet.
Bow to me.
Well, that was that video. Wow, this is actually probably the shortest reaction yet. But yeah, that was Saint Celestine, the Living Saints Explained. It's I am kind of curious as to the specifics of how her creation was brought about. Like, if it was due to the battle for Terra during the Horus Heresy, should that mean she's been around for a really long fucking time as well, doesn't it? Like, yeah, there's the Custody who possibly who helped to bring the sisters into the fold. That's probably also just as old according to this video, according to Major Kill. But, I feel like that if it's true that Saint Celestine was on Terra during the siege, that's gotta be... Yeah, that's gotta definitely mark her as being really significantly older than we might give her credit for. My question is, how the hell did that come about, right? Like, if she is some type of divine being as a result of the Emperor's own existence or divinity somehow, like whatever the hell they're going to use to explain that shit, it makes you wonder, how did it happen? Because I don't think the Emperor just specifically chose her to just be like, oh yeah, you're going to be my new saint, congratulations. I don't think it happened like that. There's got to be more to it. I imagine there probably is a bit more of a lore dive. There were some videos that were significantly longer that kind of delved into this whole thing, but, I'm not going to watch them right at the moment because I got, it's almost time, I have to make thumbnails among other things. I got other videos on the back burner right now that I need to post, but, all in all, she's a very interesting character. Like, her powers are interesting. There's a lot of mystery and intrigue behind it, and her power level is still a bit of a quandary because despite the fact that she apparently has the power of a quote-unquote Primarch, she gets easily killed by Meltas among other things, but granted, I'm sure Meltas could do a lot of damage to even just like any ordinary Primarch as well, so, I mean, those things are basically just like condensed heat shockwaves in like a fucking they're like explosions hitting you in the face, essentially. I don't know the specifics on how the Meltas work, but it looks like just a massive explosion just completely projected in a singular direction. So the amount of force and destruction behind the blast has gotta be fucking destructive as hell. But yeah, that's that video. Go, if you like short snippets of lore rather than going into complete lore dives. If you're someone who's probably just now getting into the setting, I'd say Major Kill is a great way to start, as well as Westhammer. Westhammer also creates very interesting, small snippets of lore delvings, and he does other types of videos where he ranks other, factions, legions, among other things, or even, the most hateable characters, or the most likable characters in 40k lore, so... there is a bit of variety in this space. And, again, Major Kill, he gives you the lore in a way that's both punchy and easily digestible. So if you want to go and support your boy Major Kill, go ahead. And so, yeah, with that being said, please go like and subscribe. And go watch the original video. Or go, well, support the original video. Either way works. But yeah, I'm going to cut it there. Kind of rambling now. I shall see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.